But when I lived in England, I refused to pay tax. It was 40%. So they started sending me letters and threatening me. Do you know what you do? Guess what I did? Ignore the letters. Ignore. Then they start sending people around to my house. Where's Andrew? Oh, he's not here. Ignore. You want my money? Come get it. Come get it.
I just want to bring you some breaking news before we leave you. Well, Andrew Tate has said that the Chief Magistrate's ruling to allow police to seize more than £2 million from him and his brother Tristan is not justice and is a coordinated attack. Of course, it comes after Westminster Magistrates Court allowed the Cornwall Police to seize that money, saying he owed a lot of unpaid taxes.
And come get it, they did. It was announced last week that a judge in London ruled that UK authorities can seize over $3 million that were being held in frozen bank accounts belonging to Andrew and Tristan Tate because they didn't pay a cent in taxes on £21 million of revenue which they earned between 2014 and 2022. I'm going to refer to this ruling by Judge Paul Goldspring that has brought some interesting revelations. The first, which comes as no surprise, being that the police found the Tates have paid no tax in any jurisdiction since 2013, despite him having claimed that his tax affairs are in order in Romania.
And I mean this. So let me give you an example. My tax affairs are fully in order in Romania because I pay 3%. But when I lived in England,
one important element of this ruling, which I feel like a lot of the media is missing, is that it is clear this is about more than just unpaid taxes. A big part of their reasoning behind seizing these funds is that these bank accounts and the shell companies listed were being used to launder money from their criminal enterprise, including payments from webcam companies for their illegal sex trafficking operation. An amusing part of this ruling, which again comes as no surprise, is that Andrew's big mouth once again has been used against him in court. The first two instances we see of this are two very infamous clips of Andrew that have been quoted in the ruling. The first being a clip of him on a podcast bragging about refusing to pay taxes in the UK and telling the authorities to come and get it. And the second being the clip from his pimping hose degree sex trafficking course, when he taught his sex trafficking students to defraud their cam girls by telling them they were paying taxes while paying no taxes because, as he incorrectly tells them, you don't have to pay taxes on Bitcoin. Here are these two clips with the quotes from the ruling on screen.
Society is designed for Joe Schmo to find a Joe Schmo wife and be miserable and pay his taxes and barely get laid. That's fine. I refuse to comply. I refuse to live that way because I don't need to.
Then you end up with 30,000 euro fines.
Fine. Take me to jail. I don't care. You think I'm afraid of jail? I don't give a fuck. Let me tell you one more thing. This is for anyone listening. Let me tell you something. Every single system in the world is based on complicity. They cannot enforce systems. The IRS cannot enforce you to pay your taxes. The police cannot enforce you to wear a mask. There are not enough enforcers. Everything is based on complicity. If you refuse to comply permanently, you will be amazed how far you can get as an individual. And I mean this. So let me give you an example. My tax affairs are fully in order in Romania because I pay 3%. But when I lived in England, I refused to pay tax. It was 40%. So they started sending me letters and threatening me. Do you know what you do? You know what most people would do? Reply to the letter, get a clever accountant. Guess what I did? Ignore the letters. Ignore. Then they start sending people around to my house. Where's Andrew? Oh, he's not here. Ignore. There becomes a point where there's a cost-benefit analysis where they sit down and go, we don't know where this guy is. We don't even know how much money he has. We don't know if he's going to pay. He might have left the country. This is a waste of our time. And they give up because everyone's a coward and fills in the form. I don't fill in forms. No, you want my money? Come get it. Come get it.
The official position of sex workers is fill in the form and pay your taxes.
Tax is also another important element for controlling your woman. You're not going to pay anybody tax because you're getting paid in Bitcoin. So you don't need to pay tax to anybody. But you need to tell your girl that you're paying the tax. Because girls are lazy, and girls are stupid, and girls don't understand how taxes work. So the girl's working with you, and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, we've made this much money, but I'm going to pay the tax to make sure we don't get in trouble. She'll sit there and go, okay. Now that allows you to do two things. One, it's another control element. If I work with him, my tax is not a problem. If I do it alone, I have to deal with taxes. Taxes are complicated. It's a control element. Secondly, it allows you to pay her a smaller percentage. So I used to pay my girls 30%. So for every $10,000 they made, I'd give them 3, and I'd keep 7. They thought they were on 50%. And I said that the disparity is because of taxes. So you're on 50%, but we had to pay the tax first, and then it's 50-50. If they say, why is it 50-50?
There's a good reason why they call Andrew Tate the king of self-snitching. There was also a series of quotes from Andrew on this appearance on the Strike It Big podcast, included in the ruling. The podcast was posted on Christmas Eve 2022. Ironically, just days before Andrew, Tristan, Luana and Georgiana were arrested. In this podcast, Andrew again brags about not paying taxes and relentlessly brags about the wealth he'd accumulated from these illegal funds, which he was refusing to pay tax on. Here are all the clips from this podcast referenced in the ruling, with the quotes from the ruling on screen.
And I have no respect for money. Money for me is a tool, and I use it to get whatever I want and bend the world. I can never be poor. My skill set, the people I know, my phone book, my reliability, my reputation, you could take all of my money today. I'll be a millionaire again in 2 weeks. I can call people and say, lend me 10 mil. Oh, that's Tate. He'll give it back. This is the thing. It all ties into how deep you go into the matrix. Is the money that you have yours? Is the house that you own yours? Is any of it yours? You piss off a government. Piss off a government and tell me what's still yours. And you'll soon learn that none of it is yours.
Are you worried about what you own? Because if it's not yours, they can take it away and you are speaking out against them.
I don't own anything.
I've heard you say that a few times.
So can you explain that?
Can you enlighten that? You own nothing,
I
Andrew.
don't own anything. I'm just some dude.
I think you have a Bugatti though, don't you?
Yeah, when you say nothing, do you mean
Do you not
nothing?
own it?
Nothing.
Okay, that's good.
I don't own anything. There are cars. Let's say there's a
That you have access to.
Correct. I know that whatever the price of a house is now, in 5 years, you're going to be very glad you bought it. I mean, there's been properties I bought a year ago. I've already made 60.
Which you don't own.
Oh, sorry. There's people I know who have bought houses a year ago and they've made 60 to 70% in a year. So it's weird. I don't pay for anything. I don't have any money. I don't have any of that stuff anymore because I don't look at the price of anything. I don't look at the price of anything. If a new car launches and I want it, I just say, give me this and
Sort it.
yeah, literally, give me one. What options? All of them. Just tick every box, buy. And cars turn up at the house that I've forgotten I've bought. And
When did you reach that level of wealth? Was it within the last couple of years or were you at that stage beforehand?
I was always fairly well off, but in the last, I'd say 3 years, I got to a point where money is truly not real. Money has no value whatsoever for me anymore. So if I want something, I'll just buy it. And I spend ridiculous amounts of money on stupid things.
Okay.
I think a good life costs about $1 million a month.
Wow. That's a big figure.
$1 million a month is a good life. $500,000 a month is doable and you can still live good. But if you want to really truly live like the best human experience, it costs about $1 million a month.
And is that earned income or income with your assets increasing?
That's income that you have coming into the bank that you can spend.
Okay, that you're taxed on as well. So it's slightly less than that, but
depending where you pay tax. Sure.
Our companies are based here and we moved to Dubai.
Yeah.
How long do we have to live there for it to be tax-free?
I know that they're bringing in a corporation tax, but that's only if you're doing business inside of Dubai. But let's say you had an online company, which is based out of Dubai, and you're making money online and the money is banked in Dubai. You don't owe the UK a fucking thing. You don't owe a penny. So why
When are we moving, Dad?
Yeah, you don't owe them a penny. And
The details of this ruling have embarrassed the Tates in more ways than one. Back in July, when this case was announced, Andrew posted a meltdown video to Twitter. In this video, he said the allegations were false and he was going to prove it in court.
They know this is false, and I'm going to prove in court that this is false. They know that I have a complicated tax structure.
When in reality, the Tates didn't even attempt to defend this in court. They didn't even provide any evidence to the court in their defense. No tax returns, no financial records. They didn't attempt to call any witnesses to testify in their defense. They brought nothing. This saga has given us yet another example of how these guys are the most embarrassing liars online. Have a look at how Andrew was talking about this when the case was announced in July, saying that he paid his taxes and this was all propaganda. Then get a load of the brothers last week in the aftermath of this ruling, being open about the fact that they never paid their taxes, joking about it, and talking about how no one cares.
So in case you haven't seen the news, now the UK government has instructed their propaganda arm to tell everybody that I'm a tax evader and I owe £21 million of taxes. They know this is false, and I'm going to prove in court that this is false. They know that I have a complicated tax structure, and they're going to deliberately pretend they cannot see the very obvious places I've already paid my tax, so that they can come at me and attack me and put me all over the MSM and try and insult me again, because the case in Romania is falling apart. Guys, do not be deceived. So now they thought, shit, he's won, this is garbage, let's quickly say he's a tax evader. Let's imagine I fucking evaded tax, which I didn't. All you'd be saying is I don't pay for more bombs to drop on innocent Gazan children. Oh, I'm sorry, boo-hoo. You know I paid my tax, British government. You're just coming after me because you're butthurt that you couldn't get me on this garbage human trafficking case. I paid my taxes. I've done nothing wrong. I'll beat this case. I'll beat every other fucking case.
All right, I do have a civil finding for tax evasion, though. It was a misunderstanding, Andrew. You see, it turns out England wanted me to pay my tax, but I thought they said, don't worry about it, relax. And you know how my hearing is a little bit off sometimes. So that tax thing, the civil thing, that was a misunderstanding. My bad.
I could have swear they said relax too, to be honest.
What they actually said was, you're rich, you have to pay your fair share. But I heard, don't worry about the cash, I don't care.
Nice.
It was a simple misunderstanding. So yes, I have civilly been found liable for tax evasion. Whoops.
See, what they said was, we need to pay the money. But I thought they said, you and your brother are really funny.
What they actually said was, pay your taxes or you're going to end up with a civil charge. But I heard, why don't you take your money and go and live large?
Nice.
Everyone hates tax evaders. I mean, everyone I know has said to me, Tristan, I can no longer be your fan because you accidentally didn't pay some tax. As you know, that's happened millions of times. I've lost all my fans.
It's not like
everyone cares.
It's not like everybody realizes their government are corrupt and they waste all the money on garbage anyway. And anybody who's rich tries not to pay tax as much as possible. And all the large corporations in the world don't pay tax. And all the large celebrities in the world don't pay tax. And all these big internationals don't pay tax. Politicians don't pay tax. All the rich people have never paid tax ever, which is why they made the tax code so difficult on purpose. It's not like people understand that.
I'll leave a link to the ruling in the description for those interested. It goes into detail about how the Tates used shell companies, assets, properties, accounts belonging to their co-defendants in the Romanian trafficking case, Luana and Georgiana, and accounts belonging to an anonymous woman listed as J, to move around and launder money from their criminal activities, including their webcam sex trafficking operation, and it also mentions their earnings from CobraTates.com and Hustlers University. One thing that stuck out to me is we got another example of their absolute sloppiness, which we learnt a lot about with the recent hacking of the real-world online platform. They discovered that Talisman, one of their companies, owned CobraTate.com using screenshots from the privacy policy of the War Room and Hustlers University. These guys are just sloppy criminals, terrible at covering their tracks. And a part of this ruling that I found very interesting is that it states that the accounts which the revenue from the War Room and Hustlers University were paid into have not yet been traced by Romanian prosecutors and were part of an ongoing investigation separate to the first indictment in the Romanian case. This backs up my opinion that I've been saying for a long time, that the Tates and others were very likely looking at criminal charges for Hustlers University, the Real World and the War Room. And when it comes to the Tates and tax evasion, there was one piece of news last week that completely slipped underneath the radar. The Romanian anti-fraud inspectors announced that they had just completed their own tax evasion investigation into the Tate brothers and found that they owed the equivalent of $6 million US in taxes to Romania. This is unsurprising considering we know they don't pay taxes. We now know they haven't paid taxes in any jurisdiction since 2013, and they've been permanently living in Romania since 2017. Any criminal charges coming from the UK for tax evasion likely won't see the light of day until the Tates are extradited, but Romania already has them where they want them. and they are looking at significant prison time in Romania for all of these unpaid taxes. So even in what I see as an unlikely scenario that they get off of sex trafficking charges, there's a good chance that they could pull an Al Capone on them. I cannot stress enough how fucked these guys are. No one should aspire to be like them. Even if you want to be a criminal, they are terrible, sloppy criminals. You can do better.
Cameras anyway. I've paid my taxes. I've done nothing wrong. I'll beat this case like I'll beat every other fucking case. And all you're doing by putting this on the news is proving that I'm rich.